there ever was a poster child for the ethos of going out on top, it's Nico Rosberg. Just 5 days after winning the 2016 Formula One championship, he announced his immediate retirement from the sport and made a promise to himself.
I would live much more of a life of service to others, friends, family, society, and then this really was the launch for me into this path of sustainability.
Now Nico is an entrepreneur and investor focusing on sustainable mobility and green technologies. He also hosts his own green tech event each year after deciding there was a distinct gap in the market.
So I said, hey, it's time to create that platform to help really foster green technologies and also to enable the world's leading change makers.
In this episode of Leaders with Lacqua Goes Green, we talk about how Nico decides what to invest in, why he's optimistic about younger generations tackling climate change, and how lessons learned on the track are still helping him now.
I'm never going to face more challenging rivalries in business probably ever in my life than facing the likes of Michael Schumacher and then Lewis Hamilton.
Nico Rosberg, thank you so much for joining us here on Leaders with Lacqua. When did you decide exactly in your mind to focus on sustainability?
It's a pleasure to be on the show. In my career as a Formula One driver, there was a lot of mental challenges subjectively. So I worked with a psychologist actually for 10 years. And one of the key learnings for me was that we have 5 or 6 basic human needs. And in that is security, in that is significance, but a very important one is also contribution. And as a very ego-driven sports person, that was always something that was not my forte. So after my career, I made a promise that I would live much more of a life of service to others, friends, family, society. And then this really was the launch for me into this path, in this path of sustainability.
So why climate change? Was there something that actually made you think this is the concern for future generations in which I can make a difference?
Climate change, it came very much through mobility, because mobility is my home. It's always been my home. And I saw the transformation that was happening in mobility and how it was going to improve things in this battle against climate change. Because of course the transportation sector can be up to like 20% of the global emissions. And that really captured me. It was fascinating, the innovation, the opportunity. And then I just really educated myself. I just learned more and more. And that's also something that I think I can recommend to everybody, to just spend a little bit of time and learning about the topic and about what's happening there, about the opportunities that there are arising also.
Nico, you retired from Formula One actually, very young. Was it always the plan?
No, not at all. I had no plan. Zero plan, which was also not so easy. Because you have this big focus and it suddenly disappears after I decided to retire, because I had achieved my dream of being a world champion. And so then it was really a discovery for me, discovering a new path. And today I consider myself a sustainability entrepreneur. And it feels right. It gives me a lot of purpose in life, and it's a nice feeling.
Was it hard actually to stop driving to focus on green issues?
The one didn't have anything to do with the other, because I really didn't know what I was going to do after my career. But yes, it was hard to stop. As if you would stop your job as well tomorrow, Francine, it would also be and not knowing what you have next. It's challenging because so much of your life is really focused around that. And then, but anyways, change can also be a great thing. And for me, it's worked wonderfully.
So talk to me a little bit, Nico, about Formula E. Right. Do you think this can really replace what we're seeing at the moment with motorsports?
So I see sports as a very important vehicle for good, and also in this fight for climate change. And that's why I'm a big supporter of electric motorsports. So I was a very early stage investor in Formula E, which has become a very successful motorsport series now, really considered the second biggest series in the world after Formula One now. And it's conveying an important message, because Formula E, we race in the city centers. And it's all about showcasing how cool electric mobility is, making it accessible, shifting the consumer mindset. That's really the key. But also the race to road transfer of technology. There's so many manufacturers developing their electric motors in Formula E. So that's also a beautiful technological improvement platform. And now I also have my own team in the off-road version of Formula E. It's called Extreme E. I have my own team. I'm racing Lewis Hamilton's team there. Which is a great battle. We're first and second in the championship. I'm first. So this is another project of mine.
I mean, that's really exciting. Nico, when you look at Extreme E or Formula E, is there anything that needs to change to bring it more to, to the masses? How can it really, become as popular or partially as popular as Formula One?
Well, it's a very young sport. Formula One has been established since 70 years. And so it's just going to take time. It's important, I think, also to further grow the personalities that are involved, because when we look at Formula One of the biggest strengths is Hamilton, Verstappen, and the personalities involved, which Netflix has been a big driving force also to support that. And that's something that Formula E, for example, can still do further progress with in growing their personalities that are driving.
So I think if you're looking at Extreme E, it requires both male and female drivers. Do you think that will have broader appeal?
Extreme E, yeah, it's a total different kind of project, because with Extreme E, we're kind of bringing together the blue planet with motorsports, because we are racing in like extreme locations where the damage of climate change can already be felt significantly. So we were racing in Greenland 2 weeks ago, where every year the glacier is retreating by a large amount, and we're really bringing across this story with the racing that we're doing there, and also supporting local initiatives. So it's really the whole championship is built on a social cause, and this like combination of the imagery, the planetary focus with the motorsports, I think has a special appeal.
I mean, I guess this is also bringing awareness. Does it make a difference? Does it really, engage with people? Do people say, actually, I want to use less electricity, I want to use less water, when they look at you racing in some of these extreme conditions?
So that's what we're striving to do. We want to raise awareness for what's happening out there, for the damage and the threat that we're facing with climate change. And therefore, yes, I'm very sure that we're having a big, more and more bigger impact, because we also work with Christiana Figueres, also with my team, with my Driven by Purpose campaign with my team, because we have our own initiatives, and we work together with Christina Figueres, who's launched countusin.org, where she's really trying to encourage every single individual to pledge a couple of steps. And I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of individuals that have registered in a very short space of time. And if you add the impact together, it ends up being very, very large. And so it's all these wonderful things that we're trying to push on.
When you look at Formula E or Extreme E, is there a concern that aficionados won't get into it because they don't hear the engine roaring? And will we get at some point to something that actually can deal with that?
So of course that's a compromise, because I get goosebumps from a Ferrari V12 engine. But we have to accept change, and in change sometimes there's always going to be small compromises, and it's necessary change, So I think with time, and it is already the case, people will accept the lack of sound and just enjoy the exceptional motor racing, the battles, the fights, and that's what it's all about.
Up next, building greener cars is all well and good, but for Nico Rosberg, it won't be until manufacturers get the pricing right that things will really change.
You just can't expect people to pay more money for it, even though they know it's right and everything, but they're not going to spend a couple of thousand more euros on it. I mean, not in the masses.
Nico Rosberg is a Formula One champion turned sustainability entrepreneur. But with his inbox constantly overflowing with offers to collaborate, how does he pick which ventures to put his money into? And what has he personally changed in his life to make a difference to the environment? Have you changed your lifestyle at all?
I'm not really doing compromises, but I'm doing modifications, which mean that we're living a greener lifestyle. And that means switching. I mean, I'm living here in Monaco. Behind me, it's the Monaco Yacht Show that is on, which is definitely not very sustainable at the moment. And I've switched to a green energy supplier here for my apartment. I drive an electric car. I have the Audi e-tron in my garage. I have an electric bicycle, especially during this week where the chaos on the roads, I mean, it's a mess. So I'm going around with an electric bicycle. We're eating much more vegan. In fact, I'm also an investor in the food space, in alternative protein startups and all this. So it's really spending time and trying to do what we can.
How do you expect everything to change? Are we going to see more private, valuations? How do you actually pick what investments you want to be part on?
It's very important for me to see that founders are purpose-driven, but also are, of course, aiming for that profitability. And it's that balance that is really fundamentally important, because I believe this being purpose-driven, first of all, is the right thing to do, but it's also an essential ingredient for business success in the next 10 years. As consumers are becoming more and more aware of that. And so this is something I look for very much.
How excited are you about new technologies coming online? And I don't know whether it's new technologies or maybe older green technologies just becoming cheaper and so more widely available.
Yeah, it's really an inflection point at the moment where, especially in the car industry, on average, probably prices are still a little bit higher than a combustion engine. And that is a big handbrake, because you just can't expect people to pay more money for it, even though they know it's right and everything, but they're not going to spend a couple of thousand more euros on it. I mean, not in the masses. So if you really want to get that hockey stick and really, scale up the electric mobility, it's important to get that price point exactly equal. So there's still a little bit of room for progress there. I mean, the biggest cost in building a car at the moment is the battery cost. So we need to make sure to drive those battery costs down. A big problem is, of course, the monopoly that China has with battery and Korea. So that's why we're also seeing so many more local battery manufacturing plants popping up now in Europe. I mean, that's essential.
So when you choose a company to invest in or actually speak about, how does it work? They come to you and they do a pitch and you ask them questions? Or do you have a team that work with you that say, we want to focus on something where it's, we focus on veganism, we focus on food because that's yet to be disrupted?
It really depends. I mean, a lot is through the network that we've built up now with other venture capitalists. There's, of course, a couple of cold outreach as well, but my email inbox is like flooded. So it's very difficult to skim through those and really pick out the good ones then. And other avenues are, that's primarily the biggest ones.
Nico, you're also starting a green tech festival. Was there a lack in the market of a festival of this sort that made you say, actually, I want to own this space to I guess, again, spread the word and get more people involved?
That is exactly the point. So I was at the Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas, and there was no dedicated space for green technologies, but a lot of the technologies were green. And so I said, hey, it's time to create that platform to help really foster green technologies and also to enable the world's leading change makers and to bring everything together into this platform where we create content, we launch new products, create partnerships. And this is my Green Tech Festival, and it's something that I'm very proud of.
What difference, Nico, do you see between the older generation and the young generation? A lot of the times we hear it's really the millennials or even Gen Z that are trying to push companies to be more sustainable. I'm sure a lot of the founders that you work with are below 30 years old. Is the mindset different?
Well, the beauty is now, though, that even if the older generation, even for some people who are just about money, they are starting to understand that if they want to make money, they better make the transition as well now. And this is all driven by the younger generation. And so this makes me so optimistic because the momentum is so powerful now. And that's really, really, great to see.
Is the pandemic actually accelerated some of these trends? So I'm hearing both. Actually, the pandemic has made it much more difficult for companies to work on their supply chains because we're frozen. And others saying actually it really is going to give an exponential lift to some of these green technologies.
No, I think in the medium term, the pandemic actually, if there's one small positive thing that one can pull out of it, which one shouldn't even be allowed to say, but anyways, is the attention for threats that are facing us as a society, where climate change is one of the big ones. And I see it at my Green Tech Festival, the demand and the commitment we've seen from our partners, even through such an incredibly difficult phase, has been phenomenal. I mean, new sponsors coming in and just really, so that's been, again, very optimistic about that and nice to see.
Do you think that the main change will come from governments and politicians or, cities, or will it actually come from the private sector?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture, but the private sector without the governments won't be able to achieve anything. It's really important that the governments are aligned and are also supporting. And it's about fostering the opportunity to have economical success with business models that are sustainable. And that's really where the governments come in. It's not about regulating so much, but it's about enabling companies to really have success with sustainable business models. And that's crucial. And we've seen that in Germany, for example, now. I mean, there's the big energy companies that are trying to roll out these electric power station networks like NBW with their hypercharger network. But it's just, I mean, they really need government support to be able to justify why they're doing this and to give their business model an opportunity for success. And that's really like, it's on the edge at the moment, but I do believe that the governments are going to make progress.
Up next, the world of business and investment can be tough, but former F1 champion Nico Rosberg is more than used to pressure.
Never going to face more challenging rivalries in business probably ever in my life than facing the likes of Michael Schumacher and then Lewis Hamilton.
Formula One racing is about as intense a career anyone can choose. And during his time as a driver, Nico Rosberg had the pleasure or pressure of being teammates with both Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton. We talked about how his experiences on the track have prepared him for life as an entrepreneur. But first, Nico's thoughts on why the yachting industry is trying to catch up when it comes to sustainability. Nico, I think you mentioned yachts in the background. You're in Monaco. You're also working on sustainable yachts. I mean, is the right, thinking of just not to buy a yacht or to buy fewer yachts rather than making them sustainable?
Of course, the sharing economy is very, very important for achieving our climate goals in the future. And so yacht chartering is better than having your own one, of course. But at the same time, the yachting industry also has to accelerate their transition because they're very slow at the moment. I'm working together with Sunreef Yachts, who are the world's leading eco-luxury catamaran manufacturer, and they've now completely covered their hull and roof and everything, and even mast with solar cells, which are mendable. So they're really trying to pioneer that. It's completely electrically powered, and also full of batteries in the body. So they're trying to really be trailblazers, and I hope that the whole yachting industry can follow up very soon. And I mean, they're exploring different avenues. There's biodiesel, which is already reducing emissions largely up to 90% actually in some cases. So that seems to be a good solution. Or if not, then of course hydrogen is going to be something they have to look at more and more. But again, to get green hydrogen to the boats is going to be such a mission, unfortunately.
Nico, are they more expensive, these yachts? And again, will the price go down?
Yeah, that's a very good point. No, that's a very good point. So at the moment, they're probably around 15% more expensive, the eco yachts still. So that's a challenge that also the yachting industry will be facing. People are really like, oh yeah, I want to buy an eco boat, but when the price is then stated, it does still keep many people from actually committing. So, but that again, the price is going to come down as more and more people get involved. Supply chain, everything, things are going to get cheaper. So we're just still a few years away.
Is there anything that you learned in your, driving days, your racing days, that you now bring to your business acumen?
I'm more courageous now because I've learned that failure most of the time, of course, not ever when it's too severe, but most of the time it's actually a blessing in the long run. And so I'm not scared of failing anymore. So I'm very, very much more courageous now to just push into discomfort, push into challenges, see how it goes, try my best. And that's going to help me a lot for my life and also for my endeavors as a sustainability entrepreneur.
How did you learn that?
Oh, it's really, again, working with my psychologist and understanding. It's really through understanding that in failure, you progress the most as a human being. And progress will make you motivated. It will give you, make you proud, will make you happy. And that comes a lot of the time through failure. So if you understand that and you really embrace failure, learn to embrace failure, even though it will always bring along suffering as well, because failure still sucks. But if you learn to embrace it at the same time, there's always huge opportunities.
I mean, you've also had some pretty high profile rivalries. I don't know whether, you describe them as friendly or actually real rivalries, but how does that help in business?
Absolutely. Those rivalries helped as well, because I'm never going to face more challenging rivalries in business probably ever in my life than facing the likes of Michael Schumacher and then Lewis Hamilton, both of them as my teammates in the same car as I was driving in. So the best of all time. were always next to me in my career in my same car. And so to pull through and come out on top in both cases was like a huge learning for me, and also in terms of making me more resilient, also, you know, more resilient, learning to focus, learning to perform at my best possible level. Big learnings. I'm very thankful, and I'm going to be using those learnings now in the rest of my career.
Nico, what did you learn from them?
From Michael Schumacher, I learned about what did I learn from him? I mean, I really let me go with Lewis Hamilton first. From him, I learned about the importance of networking, and really, but also like top level networking, you know, with the decision makers. Lewis was very strong at that, getting them all to be very supportive of him, of his causes, of his directions. And that's very powerful, because alone you don't achieve anything. And then from Michael Schumacher, it's this warrior mentality. I mean, it's unbelievable. The guy woke up in the morning and he's just a warrior. I mean, relentless. And it's the hustle, you know, and that's always such a key ingredient of startups as well, their ability to hustle. And that's what I learned from Michael Schumacher, because I mean, he's second to none.
Nico, in the world of sports, we talk a lot more now about mental health, about taking breaks. How has that changed since back then when you were driving?
I think there's more and more awareness for that now in sports. I mean, I think it's also fantastic what Naomi Osaka has been doing because it's so important to open up, and that is a big challenge. I've also faced my mental difficulties, as I mentioned, but in our sport, there's still some way to go. I mean, if you take a psychologist, you're kind of looked down upon still. It still looks like a mental weakness. So I never owned up to doing it during my career. I only spoke about it afterwards. So there's still progress to be made, but also in the business sector. I mean, burnout numbers are at all-time highs, and that's why it's so important to instill more and more purpose in the culture. So in my business here in Monaco, we're 20 people now, working on all of our projects, and I'm trying to encourage, like, so we've got a couple of days allocated to everybody where people can pursue charities of their interests instead of being at work. That's a very good example. They can also take time to further educate themselves instead of being at work. And I think it's trying to implement more and more of these solutions to really be purpose-driven in the end as a business.
And do you think mental health, talking about mental health in sports then spreads to the, wider society, maybe more than any other industry?
It's everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere, just as it is in sports. And so, but that's also the companies that will be able to show honestly that they're making progress and caring about the mental health of their employees. They will have a huge asset in actually enticing new talents as well to join. I mean, I can see it now. Like, I have CVs coming in, and everybody only cares about being focused really on sustainability, and that's really helping us as a team acquire great talents as well. And then when they see how much we care about the mental health of our employees and everything, that's really makes a big difference.
Where will you be in 5 years?
In 5 years,
before then, but in 5 years.
In 5 years, I really hope that all of my projects will have generated really measurable, clear impact. You know, we're really putting the building blocks together. We have many case studies already of impact, but it needs to become like a very big measurable impact that we're putting forward, that we've created with everything that we're doing. That's where I hope to be.
Nico Rosberg, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.